It's -2 and it's sunny. Last night went down to -6. The ground has been so hard these last few days. It's been pretty tough to work out quite what to do. There's only so much surface stuff you can do. But today's a bit warmer and I thought I'd just move a bit more stuff. But I wanted to give you a look round, just a sort of overview of where we are on the downsizing project a few days before Christmas as we are. So let's start at the beginning and we'll take a look at what's been done and what's still to do. Well, it's hard as rock on here and well, not much has changed up here. This squash bed's now been taken over by my neighbour, literally a few doors down from where I live, which is fantastic. And I noticed this morning that his garlic is starting to surface, which is great. And I'll need to be getting out of here fairly soon. I need to put a back on this fruit cage as it's going to be, using the mesh that I've got left over from various projects, and I'm going to take that all the way across. It's got a door on the other end, so it's fine. The water butts and barrels are pretty much frozen at the moment, but they'll be moving down to the bottom area, and I'm thinking that I might just put them down there soon just to see what they look like and get an idea of space, how much space they take, and how I can construct a watering solution for my polytunnel. So 2, 4, 6, 7 I think to get down there, and then I've got these quarter barrel bottoms and water butt bottoms, which I'm hoping that I might be able to plant my water lily into these and then sink one into the ground. We'll see, but this one's certainly holding water, so looks like a good prospect. So it won't be long before I get out of here. I haven't yet got a solution for where to put my fruit cage. I'm thinking it might be up on the fruit area, but I'm prepared to hang in there and see how things shape out and decide in due course. So this area has been pretty much one of the biggest development areas with my downsizing project. So the compost bins in place, moving them from down there to up here, has been a fun job and it's worked out really well. I'm really enjoying having these so close. I've been testing the temperature since I put my horse manure delivery in, and it's sitting in and around in degrees C, probably 15, nearly 20 degrees centigrade. So that's not bad. These piles of manure are pretty small at the moment, and the bigger they get, the more I fill them up, the more that heat will get generating. So it's going fine, seeing it's -2 out here. And well, after having done that, I did an awful lot of working on this area to get these raised beds in. I've had an awful lot of comments about this cold frame and which way round I had it, but it's fine. I'm quite pleased with it, and I've put it together in such a way that if I need to change it in due course, then I've got that option. And these, of course, are filled up with my last year's compost. I got asked how long it takes me to make the compost that I've been showing from down the bottom, and it's a year. It's basically starts here in December, and by the time I get to next late November, December, I'm spreading it out and it's in this really great compost form. So that works really well. So these are in and this is in, and then of course I did all that paving all the way up the top to enable me to get my wheelbarrow and tip it in. And I have to say, my first delivery from that gate to here was so much simpler than working my way down there. And I do keep it in the middle here so that people aren't disturbed by, well, the odour that it gives off. And I've got to say, certainly in the early days, soon after a delivery, it does have a bit of an odour. And of course, I've got that path all the way down the side, which I put in because I don't want weeds ingressing into this growing area and that sort of covered up barrier will help to, well, at least stop the fast flow of weeds into the plot, which I have experienced in the past. So yeah, this area is coming together well. Well, my raised beds in this area, all 8 of them, have served me well, and they'll keep serving me well, I'm sure, for quite a few years to come. Whilst I'm very short of the bark to go on the paths or the wood chippings, I think I'll probably solve that problem in due course. I know Danny's made me a bit of a promise to bring some over, which I really appreciate. But generally, this is fairly dormant. I've been covering it up with my compost. I've still got one to do there, this one with the Swedes in, and I've put compost in the bottom where I've got vegetables still growing. So this is going along nicely, and this year I've not covered over with nets in any way. I figure while the ground's hard and it's got chunky bits of compost on it, I shouldn't have too much problem with cats. Fingers crossed. Well, this area is still very much a work in progress, and I just want to get these last few sprouts out, which will be coming out in a few days when we have our Christmas lunch. And then I can start to think about how I flatten this. And I'm sort of working on the basis that I'm going to have fairly big area here that's of a similar sort of level, and then flatten again, sort of get steps going up there by just getting things to a reasonable level. And then more and more I'm thinking shed on this space and tanks, IBC tanks, and then the barrels with the water in. But as I say, I think I might just sort of set those barrels out and see how they look. But this is definitely still quite a lot more to do. I'm pleased with the barrier that I put in, and I've got at least one of these to go a little bit further down. And then I've got to think about how I finish off. I mean, my plot comes down the side with the path that I've built. If I can get through here without losing my microphone. In reality, it comes to about here. So I've got this little space in front, and I'm thinking that I might use that for some sort of storage. This old plastic container, which has been moved around a number of times, is really falling to pieces. So I need to assess whether in fact I can repair that, or whether the nets, which is what I keep in it, can go in something else here. I was wondering whether some of these composters that I don't use, I could just put the lid on and put the nets inside, as long as I've got something underneath that doesn't allow all that couch grass to grow up. Right, I'll show you the other end. One last cabbage to come out of here, and this tank is going to move down, I think. And then this is where I've got to level a bit more before I put those barrels and water butts in, but I think I'll just try them out in this area. Otherwise, I've got my garlic growing nicely up the top. Let me show you those. So pretty much all the garlic that I've sown has come through, and well, it's taken a bit of a hit with this cold weather, but that's okay. It's used to that sort of growing condition. And I've got 2 that don't appear to have much in them, but in reality it's got little shoots, and they're the elephant garlic, which I definitely put too close together. Thanks for pointing that out to me when I did a bit of research. It was a bit of a faux pas, but we'll see how it goes. It'll be interesting to see how growing elephant garlic tightly together impacts on the cloves of garlic. Well, anybody who watches my channel and has done for a long time will know that last year I didn't grow enough swede, and I cursed, and this year I grew a lot more and close together, so that I got smaller swede, and they taste brilliant, but I must say they feel a little bit harder, and I'm beginning to wonder whether growing things closer together clearly prevents them from getting large, but does it also result in all the cells inside of the root being closer together and then making it a bit tougher? I don't know. I've never read anything like that, but I'm beginning to think it. So I think next year I'm going to grow swede further apart and put up with the fact that they're a bit larger, because I think it might mean that they're a bit, well, easier to mash. I think is probably the most important thing. So outside of the downsizing of my allotment, this is probably the biggest project that I've done, and this was late last year and into early on this year, and I just got finished in time to get the raspberries all in, and I had a fantastic crop, no complaints there. And as you can see, it's dropped all its leaves now, and I can see everything that is going to be providing those wonderful raspberries this year. I took the time to take out all the fruiting branches earlier on, so what you can see here now is what's actually going to bear the fruit this year, and these are summer fruiting raspberries. I've still got some path work to do, and putting grass clippings on the base of this growing area was just a fantastic suggestion by you guys, because it's kept the weed growth down to an absolute minimum. There's a chunk here, but to be honest with you, it's too hard to pull out at the moment, but to be honest with you, it's kept it to an absolute minimum, and I just need to be careful where it's growing round the roots because it's a bit fiddly to get it out. But no, it's been absolutely brilliant up here, and I think it will, well, serve us well for a long time. Well, the fruit garden's been neglected for some time, but then it was always designed to be low maintenance. There's still bits to do, but I figure that I'm not going to actually get in here and start to work on it in any way until I've finished the downsizing project. The thing about having the membrane on the surface like this is it always made it low maintenance, and therefore I can sort of, well, leave it aside until I'm ready to do something. I am thinking I've got to site that fruit cage, and I'm wondering whether I'll end up putting it in and around here, because it's fairly flat here and then slopes off down quite quickly. I've got one or two trees here that are really not done that well. I've certainly struggled to grow these trees, and I've got canker in this one. I'm thinking that I need to take it out fairly low down because the other two branches are not so badly affected. But yeah, it's a real struggle. So whether I just pick the two plants or the two trees that are having the most trouble, which I think is this one and that one there, and then move one and have the fruit cage here, that might be a solution. But I don't know, there's plenty to do over here, not least cleaning up all this path. And the membrane, which is now, I think, probably 3 years old, wherever I've had a break in the membrane, and mainly in the seams, I've got quite a lot of growth of grass. So one of the things that's on my agenda when I'm downsized and basking in the sun, waiting for things to grow, is that I might have to work on this membrane and even put another piece along the side where most of the grass ingress has occurred. Otherwise, it's just a clear up on here, and I'm just looking for the right day. Today isn't it because the ground is so hard. There's a peg sticking out here and I can't even push it into the ground. Just managed it. Right. So the main thing still to do is really that whole sort of utility area along the side. There's a lot of work to do there, but it'll be enjoyable, especially when it gets a wee bit warmer. But of course I've got all this purple sprouting broccoli in this area, and this at the moment is an area that I'm giving up. Everything the other side of the path that I've built I'm keeping, but I've got these until March and they should give us a really good crop, so I'm just keeping a careful eye on them and making sure that they get through the winter without any problem. Otherwise, over here, all my remaining work is down there. Let's take a look. So pretty much any plants that I've got down in this area, I've pulled into this one small area here, and most of it is sort of stuff that I've been keeping going in the nursery, like raspberries and the old gooseberry. But of course I've got the remainder of my potatoes here, which are still to be harvested, and there's probably 6 pots here. I think those 2 at the end are just compost, but we'll be eating those over the Christmas period, which will be marvellous. And then all the spent compost will go onto the plot, and buckets held in one location ready for next year. And of course, that's my biggest dilemma up by the IBC tanks and where I might end up putting my shed, is what space I will eventually have for keeping garlic and for growing potatoes. So a lot to work out over there, which would be great. And then of course I've got this run of sprouts. These sprouts haven't done as well as the ones over there because they were planted later. And I know every time I talk about my sprouts, I don't really remember which variety it was. And it's important to do so because it's been my most successful Brussels sprout ever. And I was getting my seeds prepared the other day and I saw the packet and it's brilliant, F1. So I'll be growing those again because they've given me the most success of any sprout I've ever grown. And they were suggested by a subscriber, so thanks very much. So I've got some steaks to come out of here, finish eating the remaining sprouts, and then that's this area, apart from moving the buckets over, pretty much sorted. So I got out of this area a little while back, a week or so ago. Pretty much everywhere here is now, well, finished, apart from this one bit of compost here. I just came down to see whether I think I'm going to be moving this today, and to be honest, it doesn't look likely. It's pretty hard on the surface. Actually, once you get under the first 2 inches, it is soft, so maybe. But yeah, this is the last bit for me to get out of, in this corner anyway. And well, just off to the right of the camera, I've got a composter full of spent soil, so I'm going to be moving that as well. And well, yeah, I think I'm pretty much out then. Behind the shed's all finished, and I just need to take a few bits off the shed and empty the shed into the polytunnel. I'm not looking forward to that because I sort of know that it's going to cramp my style in the polytunnel for the beginning of next season. So I need to get really organised in there, get everything compactly organised so that I can have a work surface on which to grow seeds and open up the bed ready to grow things for this spring. So that'll be a bit of a pain, but it might be a good thing to do on a wet day when I can get in there and get organised. Well, the forecast is for much more mild weather, and in fact a whole week of rain in the run up to Christmas Day. So I don't know, I'm thinking that it might be difficult on the plot. Even then we'll go from cold to wet. What we want is some dry and warm really, but it's probably not going to happen. I'm having a quick look at this bed to see how easy it is to get all the weed that I've got in here out, and to be honest, it's too hard. So I think I'm gonna have to wait. Surprisingly warmer in here, or not surprisingly warmer. There's quite a bit of snow on the top of the polytunnel, and it's been so cold that none of it has melted. Not enough to cause any harm, so I'm not too anxious about removing it. If we had some more, then there comes a point with the polytunnel where you just need to be a bit careful. But I can see how, because it's so cold, it's tight like a drum in here, so just need to be a little bit careful. Most of the drips that are coming down are frozen, but the main thing in here is a big tidy up, as I say. I've got my strawberries into a sort of holding bed, which is working okay. And I've got, well, probably half a dozen large carrots left, which I'll be going through quite quickly. And then I've got this plan in my mind that I'd quite like to take out a good foot of what's in this carrot bin, and then that's all can go into a wheelbarrow, and then I fill it with spent compost, probably the spent compost in that composter down there, and then put the poor soil that I've just taken out back on top. And my logic is keep this soil from being anything really rich and nutrient full, so that the carrots continue to grow down, and they seem to be doing really well at that. So I think perpetuating what I've been doing, but adding a bit more depth to it is the next step in here. And then this bed, if I've got any compost left from moving over to my raised beds, I'm going to refill this with good compost, because that's not been done in here for some considerable time. So there's loads to do in the polytunnel, and I'm waiting for a rainy day to do the tidying, as I say, because, well, it's not always great fun being out in the rain. So downsizing the plot has been, well, a pretty big job really, but I have enjoyed it, and there's still quite a lot to go. Well, there's a lot to go. But just to give you a recap, everything in front of me here is what I'm going to keep, and everything that's behind me is what I've given up. And, well, my theory always was that that area over there was not anything like as productive as this one. I need more time, and therefore getting these paths so that there's no longer any grass to mow has been a big part of my strategy, and I'm looking forward to spending all my time on the growing rather than the maintenance, although clearly there's always some maintenance. Having my bins here has been fantastic, and I'm going to enjoy that. So it's been really good. It's been a lot of work, and there's a lot to go, but it's all about enjoying what you do, and I've certainly enjoyed getting to this point, and I'm looking forward to the rest. The main thing is not bumping into the growing season with loads of things still to do, so I need to get that sort of scheduled out in my head. Well, in the lead up to Christmas, looks like we've got the food that I would have liked to have had, so that's good news, and we'll enjoy eating fresh from the plot for our Christmas meal in a few days' time. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this quick update of where I am on the downsizing and what's still to do. It's a beautiful day, and it's great to be out here. Just a shame that the ground's just a bit too hard for me to do anything, well, physical. There we go. Hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, why not like and subscribe, and get my updates every Wednesday and every Sunday at 8 p.m. Good times.